this is difficult right this minute. Emotions are so high and so tough, and it's so scary. And you can see scenarios that get ridiculous.
Out of control.
Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. How do you buy into that? I mean, that's like what's happening right now. What we're starting to see right now is the types of things you do see at a bottom, yet we have no clue. This could go on for another 6 to 12 months. We just don't know because we're in uncharted territory. Okay, so we got a big question here, Todd. It's how do you get through this? And what does it look like to buy in the face of fear? Because there's certainly a lot of it. We got the market off 30, 35%.
Right.
In just a month.
That's massive.
Yeah.
All the gains from 2019 are down the drain.
Yeah, and now you can go back a couple years from much of the market in terms of how much they just gave back. I can tell you right this minute, we're shooting this on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. Monday, it's lock limited down on the futures already.
And why are we shooting on a Sunday afternoon? Because we don't know if our office is going to be open tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We have no idea. Everything's in a free fall.
Yeah, they're shutting everything down, which is another subject, but that makes it really difficult on getting the economy back, mm-hmm. right? Because you want the effects of this pandemic to be limited on the economy.
Yes.
But it's a catch-22 because the more things you shut down and the longer they stay down, then the greater the effects on the economy. People lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think of how many small businesses are going to go under because they can't, they can't bring their employees in. They can't conduct business. So, yeah.
It's survival mode for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Just how are we going to make ends meet? Looking out over the next few months, but just the next few days. It's like, okay, market's in a free fall. Costco's out of toilet paper. It's craziness out there.
Lines. There's lines, and they're only letting people in when people come out.
I've never seen this before. I mean, I'm 51. Never seen this.
Yeah.
I know my great grandmother saw the Great Depression, and she was part of that, but. You know, it's something I've never seen in my lifetime, and it's a rarity, and it's unprecedented. Part of me doesn't know what to do. It's like, how do you respond? How do you react? And how can you invest right this minute when the market's going down by 5% a day? Yeah,
and what you're feeling right now is why almost no one can buy in these types of markets. You know, in hindsight, when that market comes back, whether or not that's a month from now, a year from now, or mm-hmm. 3 years from now, when it comes back, people look at it and they look at the charts and they go, right there.
Yeah, that's when I should have gone in.
There.
But the merry-go-round's going so fast, how do you just jump on? It's difficult to do. You have to really be brave and courageous and go, I know I have a long-term perspective. I'm 3 to 5 to 30 years, and I'm jumping back in. Even though it's still going down, I'm jumping back in.
Yeah, and that's, look, I'll go back to the 99% versus the 1%. The 1% are successful traders, 99% are investors. You know, they're not going to do well consistently trying to jump in and out of the market and time these crashes. I don't care who you are. I don't know how you would have called this pullback. I certainly didn't see it in terms of being it tagged to the virus. Right. Obviously, we had a big run up. Mm-hmm. We were all expecting a correction of some sort because that's what the market does.
Sure.
So, but to tag this to the virus, and what we're looking at now, it's so difficult to buy right now because if you buy right now, you're going to be down tomorrow. And you have to know that every decision you make today will likely look wrong tomorrow. And no one knows how far and how long this crash goes. And that's the spiral you're talking mm-hmm. about. That's what makes it nearly impossible for people to put money into. And like I'll say 1%. It's just a guess.
Right.
But I'll say 1% are going to come in here and buy. And even the ones that do come in and buy, and then it goes down further, they end up selling.
Right.
You know, they end up selling later on. They just
can't hold it.
No. And I mean, how many people came in when we were off 15%? They go, oh, I'll buy here. And then how many came in when we were off 30%, 35%, and now down locked limit again tomorrow? You don't know until you get to the other side and you see the people that actually did hold those positions through the whole cycle of that bear market. And we definitely are in that right now. This is one of the sharpest pullbacks I've ever seen.
In a short amount of time.
87 would be the closest I've seen to this. I was only in college in 87, but I remember it well. But this was nothing like the dot-com bubble. That was like a slow 3-year frog boil.
Yeah, and you don't jump out quickly.
Yeah. And then 08 was different as well for other reasons. That was a financial collapse, and that was hard and fast, but it came raging back. I mean, raging back in 2009. So 08, it really got clobbered, and then 09, it came raging back. So,
yeah, post-pandemics like this, the market eventually rebounds. And so this marks a great buying opportunity. So the challenge is you don't have enough dry powder right this minute because you're spending on things that you think, okay, I've got to stock up for the next 14 to 30 days or whatever that looks like.
Or 3 months.
6 months. I mean, who knows? So you're going, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 right now on groceries versus putting $1,000 in the stock market.
Yeah.
Because I have a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
That's extremely difficult to do.
Yeah. It's why it's not done. It's, how do you get through a crash? You got to keep your perspective, and you've got to be able to see things 3 years out. You have to be able to see things past the threat that's currently in the market. And just today, I saw that the president authorized the use of the National Guard in New York, California, and Washington. And it's like, you want to take that to its conclusion. You can picture scenarios that will spiral and get out of control. So, I mean, it takes it to a new level. I mean, who's buying right now? I mean, we know we should. We know we have to keep that perspective. We know we should hold from a long-term investor standpoint.
Right.
That's the plan, right? That's
always the plan from an investor standpoint.
Right.
You've got to think 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And just emphasizes the whole emergency cash. You've got to have emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank set aside. You don't even touch unless events like this happen. And then you go, okay. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to let emotion overwhelm me and make decisions that are more knee-jerk reaction. It's more of, okay, I'm fine. My family's fine. One of the takeaways is you've got to have an emergency fund in place. 3 to 6, 12 months would be amazing, but 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank. And that's going to be a big takeaway for investors after this is over and the dust settles.
Couldn't agree more. That's huge. That allows you to keep your head, right? If you're wondering what's happening in 3 weeks when you have to meet your rent or anything else, then how are you going to think clearly? So,
well, this is a great lesson to be learned when the market's going up 5%, 5%, 5%, and it just keeps going up. Take some of those profits off the table, because what happens in scenarios like this, you should be buying as it's going down, and you should be taking profits as you're going up. And it's just the reverse psychology of it, where I've talked to investors in the last couple of weeks. I wish I would have taken some of my proceeds off the table. In end of 2019, the market was up 30%. I wish I would have taken some cash off the table and put it in my bank account for that emergency fund or for a buying opportunity like now. Come back in. And so just a lot of really good lessons to learn. It's just a challenge to learn them.
Yeah, I think this is how real money is made, and sell-offs provide opportunities. And we know from some of the trading greats that you make most of your money in a bear market. And It doesn't seem like it at the time, but the primary reason most investors fail, long-term investors, is they pay too close of attention on what's happening in the market today, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I would agree with your pulling money out on the way up if you're talking about building up that safety net, that emergency fund. If you don't have that 3, 6, 12 months, and really I would, especially after something like this, you can see that 3 months might not be enough. So 6 to 12 months would be smarter. So maybe when you start investing, you have 3 to 6 months cash, but as that starts to go up and you start to have profits, you go, you know what, I think I'm going to build up my emergency fund up to 12 months. And I think that's smart. But in general, it's just as hard to sell on the way up as it is to buy on the way down, because we're long-term investors. So my recommendation is you keep plowing money into the market, but it's got to be money that you don't need for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Investable money.
Yeah.
Right.
The biggest takeaway for me is that this is difficult right this minute. Emotions are so high and so tough, and it's so scary. And you can see scenarios that get ridiculous.
Out of control.
Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. How do you buy into that? I mean, that's like what's happening right now. What we're starting to see right now is the types of things you do see at a bottom, yet we have no clue. This could go on for another 6 to 12 months. We just don't know because we're in uncharted territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so keep the faith, stay positive. It's easy to panic. It's easy to point fingers. But, I think it's, as a long-term investor, you stay the course, you hunker down, you watch, and try to not be as emotional as you might tend to be during this time, and look to advisors and those who have been there before you to breathe experience and understanding and knowledge into you. Where somebody that's 70, 80, 90 years old who have been through crashes like this in the past. How did they deal with it? And look for ways to learn. How can I learn from this? Because especially if you're a new investor, you're in your early 20s and you're just now investing, there's a lot to be learned here. I mean, it's just some great investing knowledge to be gained.
Principles, yeah, and I agree. Keeping your perspective and getting the perspective of other people who've been through this, figuring out a way to look out 3 years from now. It's easy to get so trapped into the now of the financial crisis that you can't see it ever going up again. And I think that's what you have to pull yourself out of that and look beyond that. So, but it does feel like everything's going to zero in this moment. It may, and this is why so few people buy when the market's down. It's easy to say, "Oh, yeah, I bought when the market was down," But show me the statement, let me see it. And some people pull it off, and our hats off to them. But we're here to say it's difficult because I don't know how many people out there right now feel like buying, but I'm guessing it's very few people feel like buying. You got to be kidding me! How did this come up? I mean, what are the odds?
It's scary
that this is going to happen right now.
It's scary.
I mean, everyone's got to be. They were just almost there.
Yeah.
And then this hits.
Right. And
whatever there was, they were almost there.
And whoever was getting ready to retire, hold on a second.
Yeah. And the guy
you might want to wait on that one.
Yeah. The guy who just launched his small business, or it was just at a key point.
Right.
They were just going to turn the corner. I mean, this puts everything into question.
Yeah. So we'll just keep an eye on this as we go day to day. And we'll keep providing as much valuable content as possible for our listeners.
All right. We'll see you guys.